towards the right direction, because if it's going towards that direction, it means that this guy will be pushed out of the frame, and that's not what we want, right? So I've set the constraints to, let me click on it. I've set the constraints to right and top. Now this already has auto layout to it. So if yours does not have auto layout applied on it, just select the two items and then press Shift A on your keyboard. Shift A should be one of the shortcuts you get familiar with while working with Figma. Now I'm going to select these guys. So what I'm going to do, because it's equally good that you name your files, always form the habit of naming your layers, right? Very, very important. So I'm going to double click on this, and probably I'm going to call this area user section, or just call it user. So I know that, okay, this is, then I can click on this and then still call it nav links, right? Now, of course, you can choose your naming. Just name it in such a way that anybody that looks at your layers understand what is what, right? It makes it easier and it makes your work more. So I'm going to come to this area and I'm equally going to name it nav link left, right? Right. All right, so I'm going to select this other one, and of course this other one, and then I'll hit Shift A on my keyboard, right? Of course, make sure it is center aligned. If you align it to the top, it looks something like this, which is not too good. So, but by so, what I can do is I can now adjust the distance between these objects, just like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the constraints to right, and of course to the top. So now if the moment direction, so you've automatically told Figma that I want this to be towards the right. So Figma will no longer be moving it towards the right. Instead, you're actually on the right track. So having done this, gotten to this particular stage I'm in, can I get a yes in the comment section? So I'll know that, okay, they're all following. How about now? Is my voice okay? Is my voice okay now? Okay, let me just. Yes.
We can hear you loud and clear, so just go on.
Okay. So
okay.
Just.
Marcus,
all right. Thank you.
Make an announcement. So right. I posted a link to YouTube. So please, I don't know how you will help me pass across the information, but just in case people are trying to log in, please tell them to join the YouTube live. I have sent the link. All right. So anybody that is not able to join here should join the YouTube live while I'm trying to fix the meeting capacity.
All right, thank you very much, Zoops. All right, so guys, let's proceed. So now, basically, guys, what I just did was I added auto layout. I saw someone saying that their auto layout is not working, but just select. You can even use your mouse, click outside and drag this item that selected everything. Press Shift A on your keyboard or right click on it and say add auto layout. It's going to work. How do you know that you've added auto layout? If you come and take a look at your layer section, you're going to see this three block bar beside the name of that frame, right? That's how you know auto layout has been added to it. So you can still do the same thing here, but this time around, what we did was we selected images and Gmail and we added auto layout to it first. Then we equally selected the menu icon and then the profile icon, and then we added auto layout to it. Then after adding auto layout, we now selected the entire frame and then added an overall auto layout. And that makes it a nested auto layout because it's now auto layout that is existing inside an auto layout, right? So that is, basically what we just did, right? And then of course we now set the constraints. So this is existing on the left hand side, so we set the constraints to be left and top. This is existing on the right hand side, so we set the constraints to be right and top. That is just basically what we've done. Now moving forward, what I'm now going to do is, remember that yesterday I told you guys that when we are building our stuff, that it's always very advisable. Now understand me, I didn't say that it's a must that you should build in blocks, but I'm saying that it's always very advisable that you build in blocks, because building in blocks is equally in line with how the developers implement your designs, right? So it's very, very okay for you to actually build out your designs in blocks. Now, in order to ensure that this forms a block here, because you can see this is just one block on the left and then one block on the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the nav links in the left hand side, boom, and then the nav links in the right hand side. So you can see it has been selected from what you can see on my screen. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to frame it, right? I am going to frame it. So framing it will basically create a block there, so I can control every single thing in that navigation area. Are we on the same page? All right, all right. All right, all right. So let's move on. So it's going to create a block around that area. So I remember yesterday I showed you guys some website and I showed you how the blocks were formed, and that was how the website was actually built. So we are using that same convention, when we are trying to do our designs. It's just best practice. You get, it's not really a do or die affair, but if you want to design the right way, that's actually how to go about it. So now to frame this selection, I can just go with Control Alt G, which is the shortcut, or you can right click and you can see something that says frame selection. Get, so the moment as you're doing this thing, always learn how to work with shortcuts. So for everything you're doing, look at it, you look by the side, you're going to see the shortcuts, and then you try to memorize it. It makes your work seamless and very easy while trying to do that. So I'm going to click frame selection to frame this selection. Now the moment I click on this frame selection, our work is not done there, because why? We've not set the constraints. So Figma does not know yet how we want this particular frame to be responding in respect to the outer frame. Remember that constraints will always work in respect to the outer frame, right? Currently it's set to left and top, so this simply means that this is only responsive from the left hand side, as you can see. So we want it to be responsive both on the left hand side and on the right hand side. In order to implement that, I'll click on this frame and I'll come to my constraints and I'll set this to left and right. Now if I click and drag from here, you can see this is now responsive. So the navigation bar area is responsive. Now what this has done is I can now come here, select this entire frame, and I can name it. Remember that I said it's always very good that you name your layers very well. So navigation, I can call this what was the right word? Navigation area. The area is not supposed to be there. I usually call it navigation panel. Call it navigation panel sometimes. True. Yeah. So, but you can call it navigation area. Just call it navigation. I know the area, it's not supposed to be there. So yeah, I can call it navigation. Right. Now remember that when you're trying to name, don't just use any word that comes to your head. Use some of the terms that it's most likely to be used in the tech industry, in the development industry. So use something that when even a developer, when they see it, is still in line with what they are going to be using, their own naming style, right? So you don't just come, maybe because you now come and name here top right navigation, maybe you name it top me and you, my area, whatever. What I'm just trying to say is use some popular naming conventions to name, so that when people inspect your layers, they actually understand what is going on in your design. So having said this, you can see that we've successfully built this top area into a block. And not just only that, we've made it responsive, as you can see, right? So you can see as we are adjusting it, it's working. So now let's come to the center. So in the center, I have Google logo, I have a search bar, I have the tags, and then I have the languages, different languages that you can access this particular platform. So now what I want to do is basically, first off, the tags, I want to be able to add auto layout to it because this can increase, right, in the future, right? Or it can decrease in the future. So I'm just going to select the two of them and I'll hit Shift A to add auto layout. And then by adding auto layout, it means that in the future we can actually have a third object there. So I'm just going to place this here. Now this guy, the languages, right, is different from this. So I want to be able to add auto layout so that in case somebody wants to continue typing, it's basically flexible like that. So basically, hope we've all got into this point. So now what I just did by adding this auto layout this way is I've been able to structure this in blocks, as you can see. So this is existing on its own, this is existing on its own, this is existing on its own. But now let's come back to this, our Google page, right? Now, if you take a look at what is going on here, you will see that there is no equal spacing between Google and the search box and the tags and the languages, right? There's no equal spacing there. So in other words, I don't exactly need to start adding auto layout because the moment I add auto layout, what auto layout is going to do is that it's going to make the spacing between all the items equal. So I don't really, since Google didn't make it equal, I don't really need to make it equal. So because of that, let's come back to designs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select every single thing here and I'm going to just properly align them to make sure that it's in line. So you have the alignment panel here or the alignment section here where you can use to align your stuffs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set the constraints. Basically, the constraints is going to be center, top. Yeah, just let's make it center. Of course, you know why it's center because we want this to always be at the center of the page. So when we were shrinking it before, it was just moving, but now we want it to be as we are shrinking this and just maintain the center of this page, right? That's what we want. So I'll bring this, hit it center. Now hit it center. Now you might be wondering, okay, why am I adding constraints since I'm still going to frame this because we can't leave it to, remember we said we are building in blocks, so we can't leave it to just be existing 1 1 1 1 like this, right? Now I usually feel like it's best practice, right, to always set your constraints to the individual objects. Do you understand? So set your constraints from the individual objects up to the outer frame, even though the constraints will only respect the outer, object, the outer, the outer frame. But it's always very good that you set the constraints from the inside just to be on the very safe side. And you're going to find out why when we proceed. So I'm going to just select every single frame here, Control or G to frame, or I'll right click, and then I can see frame selection here just to frame this. So the moment I frame this, you can see the constraints has changed. So we need to set it back to center. So that is what I meant. So even though we've gone inside to set it to center, and even if we didn't set it to center, and then we set this outer frame to center, it is still going to work. But I'm just trying to say that it's always very advisable that you set all the inside constraints to center, if that's what you want it to be. So now if we try to do this, you can see that this particular object will constantly remain at the center, regardless of whatever thing we want to do. So regardless of the size, this particular thing will remain at the center. So that is just what constraint does. Now, before we proceed to the footer, are we on the same page? So I can come here and I can rename this. Maybe I can call this, let me call it body. So I can call this body, right? So before we proceed to the footer, are we on the same page? Any questions so far? If you have a question, then you can raise your hand or you can ask in the comment section. Let's take 2 or 3 questions before I proceed. So, okay, yeah, I know that some people are joining in from YouTube, right? So, I don't know. Please, let's still ensure we share the link to the resource file to them via the comment section in YouTube, so everyone can follow along as we do it. So, any questions? I can take one question. Okay, let me take from Isaac. Isaac, I saw your hand. So, let me ask you to unmute. Any question, Isaac?
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening, Isaac.
Good evening. Please, although is a question, I will take you back. Please don't be offended. The question that I have is that you do this how you create let's say for instance this body. But on my own aspect, I don't know for any other person, but I really want to grab something from there. The question that I have there is that this body now that you frame this cocoa, this Google, and oh, and this a search bar, and this cocoa search, and I am feeling lucky, and the rest of them. Please, the okay, yeah, I can see it very well now. So the rest of them that before you now frame it, does it mean that you can create as in each of these components? Like let's say for instance, is it possible that you create this component, Cocoa Sash, as in on each own component? I'm feeling lucky on its own component. I'm feeling lucky for its own component. Then Kuku offered in Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba. Then can you create each of them as a component? Then if you frame all of them, would it still work as the purpose that you are targeting?
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, yes. Now, I like your question. So, we've talked about component, but we are not making use of components. So what we are trying to make use of now is constraints and auto layouts. Now, in the
Yeah.
part 2 of this class, that is where we are going to now be making use of components. But you're correct. This Google now can actually be a component. So, for instance, now I can right click this and I can say make components. This can all be existing as components on their own, right? And how you know it's a component is if you come in the layer section, you can actually see that it has changed to blue. So, and it's not, of course, going to change how it works. It's going to still work perfectly fine. Do you understand me? So they can all still exist as components. Just that the essence of this particular exercise file is to help us understand how auto layout and constraints work. In the next exercise file, we are going to still jump into. That is where we are going to be working with components.
Please, I have another question, please. Before, when you drag this, the whole of this frame, it aligns the thing as you want. Does it mean that when once you set it as a constraint, on the constraint as you do, if you drag it left or right, it will still give you exactly what you want, right?
Yes, yes. So the constraints to be at the center. Yes.
Okay. When once you just did the way you just do now, as in if I just do it the way you just did, it will perfect.
Yes,
Hello,
yes. If once you do what I did, yes, once you do what I did now, you will get the same results. Do you understand?
okay. There's no problem, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Isaac. So we're going to continue with the work. So now I believe we now understand how we got the navigation area and of course the body area. Now, if you take a look at what is happening in my layers panel, forget all these other duplicates now. Just look at this particular Google page now here. So if you take a look at what is happening here, aside from these pages that we've not worked on, you can see that I have this thing is now broken down. I have my layers properly arranged. So I have navigation, then I have body. So we are about to work on this, footer area. Then we can now organize it. So coming to this footer area, right? You can see Germany. Okay, Germany. This text Germany is supposed to be inside this frame. So I'm just going to drag this text Germany inside frame 2, so that because this is frame 2, right, and this is frame 3. Good and fine. So you can see that, okay, these are just existing, as I said. So now let's come. What I'm going to do is the Germany, of course, I can set it to left and top, which is the default, right? Now here, what I can do here is I can select these three text, the three navigation links there, and I can hit Shift A to add auto layout. Then of course I can name them nav links. It's very important that you name your layers. I want us to have that as an habit. Most people don't do that, but it's actually a very good practice. So now I'll come here, select these other nav links here, and I'll hit Shift A and probably call it nav links, right? Okay, yeah, right. And then I'm going to set the constraints from left, of course, to right this time around. Well, I can put it to bottom, I can put it to center, whichever one you choose, it's totally fine. Whichever one you choose is totally fine. So I think, which one did I choose here? Top. So let's put it to bottom here, so that they are all like the same constraints. Yeah. Now, having done that, what I can do again is since this, because this is existing inside the frame, as you can see, why this is equally existing inside the frame, right? As you can see. So you don't need to like stress yourself as to how this was done. So you just need to have access to this same resource file, right? Which we've equally shared in the class. So now what we can do, if I come here and I drag, you can see it's not responsive, that area yet. And why it's not responsive is because we need to set it to left and right so that it can be responsive at both the left hand side and of course at the right hand side. So we're going to set this to left and right, and probably I'll go with bottom. So you can see now that I'm trying to stretch it, you can see it's already responsive. And basically, of course, because we set to bottom, we can equally drag from top to down, and it works the exact same way that we want it to work, right? So basically, that is just how you can use constraints, right, to set a particular page responsive. But now I'm not going to stop here, right? I'm going to take it like a little step further. And the reason why I'm taking it a little step further is because we are going to be producing different screen sizes of this particular page, right? So you're supposed to show how this is going to be existing on a tablet, and I'm supposed to show how this particular page is going to be existing on a mobile, right? So have we all gotten to this particular stage that we are in now? Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So if you click on the Figma link to have, just what you can do is just duplicate the file into your own system. So you don't need to request access from you. So just come here, click on this arrow, and then click on duplicate file. To be able to duplicate the file so you can actually have edit access to it. So now what I'm going to do, right, is I'm going to select every single thing here, and I'm going to press Shift A to add auto layout. Of course, this is a little bit dicey, right? So follow me closely. So the moment I hit Shift A, there's a high possibility that it's going to distort the responsiveness of that particular section. But of course, I want to, group everything. And of course, I have the option of either pressing Shift A or probably just framing it. Whichever one you do, it's going to work. But I'm going to use Shift A. And the reason why I'm going to use Shift A is because I'm going to be adjusting that particular area, right? And I want that particular area to be flexible. We've all seen how auto layout works in Figma. So I want that particular area to be flexible as I'm adjusting it. That's the reason why I'm using Shift A in that particular section. So I'll just hit Shift A. As you can see, it has added auto layout to it. But let's come here and click and see if it's responsive. So you can see it's no longer responsive, right? So now let's try to make it responsive. Now, what I'm going to do is, of course, let me name this to footer first. Yeah, footer. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter into this particular group. That's I added auto layout to this particular outer frame. Now I'm going to open it and I'm going to enter into it, and I'm going to make sure that every single thing inside it is set to fill container. Now, by so, as you're trying to drag this page to any size, it will automatically be trying to fill the container. That is what fill container does. So it will automatically try to fill it in as you're trying to drag, right? Then after doing that, I'll come back to this outer layer, and then I'll come here and set it to left and right. And of course, you can probably set it to bottom. Now, if I come here and click again, it's now responsive. Does that make sense? Any confusion so far? Any confusion so far? Okay, I'm going to recap. I'm going to undo. Right. So now, this is it. So at this point, right, at this point, this particular page is responsive. We've not added auto layout. Now, I said that I want to add auto layout, and the reason why I want to add auto layout is because I want to show the different pages of this, sorry, the different screen sizes of this particular page. So I want to show this page on a tablet view, and I want to show this page on a mobile view. And this is going to require me to, adjust some things, change the positions of some things. Now, I don't want, as I'm trying to, change the positions of things, I'm now doing it manually, right? I want to be able to, like, maybe with a click or with a drag, everything is responding, everything is readjusting to itself. You understand? That's why I want to apply auto layout to this section. Unlike all these other areas that we just frame the selection, because there's no much movement that is going on around there. Now, in order to do that, right, what I did was I selected all the elements here, right, but I just click and I drag over it, and then I hit Shift A on my keyboard. Shift A automatically adds auto layout to it, and just the way we've learned to do, we'll properly name our layers very well. So I'll call this footer, right? Now, if I come here and I drag, it's not responsive, right? So in order to make this responsive, remember the explanation that we gave, that with how I tried to explain the field container and how it works. So anytime you want a particular object to continuously be filling a particular object, always make use of the field container. So far, you've applied auto layout to it. So in order to do that, we'll now come and click on this auto layout layer, open it, select all the items that are inside, right? Select all the items that are inside, come to your properties panel and set it to field container. So when I am trying to elongate this particular page or increase the size of this particular page in terms of width, Figma will automatically be using those contents in that footer to fill that particular page, right? So after doing that, of course, if you come now and try to drag, it's still not responsive, right? Even though we've set it to fill container, it's still not responsive, right? So to make it responsive, we now need to come and click on the outer layer, set the constraints to left and right. So the moment you set that constraint to left and right, it becomes responsive, just like that. Does that make sense? Olusheyi, you can use frame. I said you can use frame, but the reason why I am using auto layout is because I want to show the different screen sizes. And to show that different screen sizes, I don't want it to be like I'm manually adjusting. I just want everything to be adjusting automatically, right? So that is why I am using auto layout for it instead. But if you use frame, it still works, right? But it requires you to, when you want to adjust, you adjust automatically, because it's not but you're still going to get the same results. Left and right bottom, yeah. No, left and right bottom, it's okay, right? Because we are at the bottom part of the page. So now let's proceed, right? So I'm going to set this to bottom as well. And then, of course, setting it to bottom means that if I drag from the bottom, it's responsive. That's just what it means. So now I have this page responsive. Now let's quickly show the tablet view of this page. Now I'll bring you guys back to this Google page, right? Now in this Google page, let's look at the tablet view and see how it is. Now see what's going on. The moment we switch to tablet view, there was some adjustments to the footer. Now this is why I used auto layout, because we're going to be implementing this adjustment. Now if I change this back, you can see everything is just the way we aligned it to be. Now if I bring it back to the footer, you can see some items came to the center, you know, and all of those, right? And then of course, if you bring to mobile view, something like this, you know, it goes on and on. What did I press? The left. Yeah. So now, so let's try to, you know, basically what we're going to do is we're going to just try to adjust, you know. So in their tablet view, it means that something in the footer adjusted. So we're just going to try to adjust something in our own footer as well. So I'm going to come to this particular page, and then I'm going to press Ctrl D to duplicate. But before I duplicate, let's talk about breakpoints, right? There's what we call breakpoints in design, and of course in web development. So breakpoint is that point where the objects on your page will no longer respond the way they ought to respond as a result of them being overstretched. Do you understand me? So for instance, now this is the landing page. So this is a breakpoint, because at this point the orientation of this page is expected to change. Are we on the same page? The orientation of this particular page is expected to change, right? So breakpoints is that point in your screen where the design elements don't act the way they should in respect to the width of that particular page. So at that point, you're now supposed to readjust the elements to a new position. Do you understand me? So breakpoints is just, for instance, now we have desktop. So desktop size now, okay, let's come back to Figma so I can just show you guys. So now if I come to frame, now this is a desktop size. Now if I make a duplicate of this, the original size of this desktop is 1280 pixels in width. Now if I reduce this to this size, I can say that, okay, the breakpoint now is from 1280 pixels to 809 pixels. So the moment it gets to 809, the moment you're shrinking this page and it gets to 809 pixels, let there be a change, because that 809 pixels is the breakpoint for desktop, right? And now this is now going to switch to tablet. Now if I make a duplicate of this now, I'll probably reduce this size to probably a mobile view size. Now that means I just created another breakpoint. So this simply means that the tablet size is 809 pixels. Now it's going to remain that same. The orientation of that page is going to remain that same way until it gets to 383 pixels. So when it gets to 383 pixels, let this adjust so that it will now suit the mobile view. Does that make sense? Does it make sense? Okay, let me come back to this page. Now, basically, guys, this is desktop. Now, if you take a look at this, how this particular area, you can see that there are lines, here. Now, these lines are breakpoints. So from here now to here is a breakpoint. So the original size here is 14 by 1440 pixels, right? If you reduce it here now, it becomes 1024 pixels. If I reduce it now, it becomes 768 pixels. So these are breakpoints. So it means that at this point, so as you're increasing or decreasing this size, once they reach that particular breakpoint, you see they will start changing the orientation. Are you seeing? So if they are coming to that point, they are readjusting to a particular. So once they get to that point, they are supposed to change, right? They are supposed to change. So basically, breakpoint is you resizing from desktop to tablet and from tablet to mobile. So what I just want you guys to understand is that there are values. So this value now, this is 320. So there is a phone, there is a small phone that the screen width is 320 pixels. Now there's another phone that is 375 pixels. There's another phone that is 425 pixels, and this represents the large screens. Now if you move to tablets, we have 768. So these are all breakpoints. So when you're trying to build out your lines, right, you're just supposed to know that okay, these values are there. It's not a big deal. You're just supposed to know, right? Okay, I just know that okay, tablet is going to be within the range of 800 pixels to like 700 and something, or to like 600 and something pixels. That's a tablet screen size. While mobile can be from 600 and something pixels to around 300 and something pixels. It's just there. Those are just the breakpoints. That's just what I want you guys to understand. There's no big deal, attached to it. Does it make sense now? All right. So let's run. So now, having said this, I am going to create a duplicate of what we have here, Control D. Right, so pressing Control D, it makes a duplicate of my page. And I'm going to come back here. Let's just say, okay, I'm sharing this tab. So I'm just going to note the size of a tablet. So the size of a tablet here is 768. Oh, that's fine. Okay, let's just use 768 here. So I'll share this tab. Now, what I'm just going to do is I'm going to come to the width here, and I'm going to type in 768. Boom. And you can see, because I built out this particular page to be responsive, right, it just readjusts, do you understand, to tablet. Now, but what I want to do here is I want to make some basic tweak here. And that tweak is, what I showed you guys here. When you reduced it, right, you can see that some information came to the center, right? So I'm going to put some information in my footer to the center. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this down frame, and I'm just going to try to drag it up. Control Z, I'll do it again. I'll select the down frame, and I can try to drag it up. And you might be wondering, why is it dragging up like this? You can see that it's dragging up like it's responsive. It is because I am using auto layout, right? Now, in a case where you're trying to drag up and it is going down, like I'm trying to drag up and it is actually dragging down, just know that you didn't set the auto layout to all content for the height. So just set it to all content so that it can actually give you a reverse effect. So what I'm just going to do, it's currently at 69. I'm going to double it. Is it supposed to be 69? Yeah, it's supposed to be 40. So I'm just going to drag it to be double, which is 80. Or you can just type in your value here, 80. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this and I'm going to centralize it, and then maybe just move it up a bit. Then this other one, I'll centralize it and then move it up. So yeah, I want the spacing between the two of them to be 24 pixels, which is totally cool. So to know the spacing, just select the text, hold down your Alt key, and then click on the one you want to measure the space with. Don't click, just hover on it. It's going to automatically show you this spacing, right? Big deal. You can use your eye to balance it out, but it's okay to make use of those things to ensure. So maybe just to create a balance, although in Google's page, Nigeria still remained at the left, but in order to create consistency, I'm just going to bring it to the center. So I'll just click on it and then I'll hit centralize. So it has centralized. So this simply means that our desktop view is going to look this way, right? Our tablet view is going to look this way. So in our tablet view, what happened is that all the items in the footer are now centralized. Does it make sense? It should make sense. This is like the simplest of it all. We just resized basically. Now, but why the resizing was smooth is because at the onset, we are trying to build the platform to be responsive. We are trying to build the page to be responsive. So that is why the resizing is smooth. So this equally tells you that when you're building your page and you're building it to be responsive, right? Resizing it, it's not going to be a big deal for you. It's actually going to be as smooth as, whatever, right? So now let's continue. So the next thing I'm going to do now is the mobile. Now to do the mobile, Control D to duplicate. Of course, you should now know that, okay, what we can do now is, if I come back to this page now, it's very easy for me to now say, okay, which one is the mobile view? I can say, okay, this is 320. Well, 320 is small, sharp, but okay, let's just use it. So I can reduce this guy to 320. Enter. I knew that this is small. Let's make it 425. Yeah, this looks more like it. Okay, so before I reduce the size, I want to show you guys something. I made a duplicate. Now watch what's happening here. Of course, the frame now is becoming smaller. So as it's becoming smaller now, you can see that our search bar is not moving in respect to the frame. Our search bar is not responsive in respect to the frame. Why? Because it is now because the frame is now small. So what we want to do now is we want it to be in such a way that as we are reducing this thing to a smaller size, let the search bar be reducing as well with it. Does that make sense? As we're reducing it to a smaller size, let the search bar be reducing as well. So to do that, it's just very simple. What we just have to do is adjust the constraints, because currently we set it to be left. Sorry, currently we set it to be center. So now we just need to adjust it to be left and right. So I'm going to set this to left and right, and then equally set this to left and right. So let's try and see if that made any sense. So as you can see, as I'm now adjusting, is adjusting the search bar, right? But something is still wrong. This mic icon here was always going out. So we're going to set the constraint. So the search icon, I'm going to set it to be on the left because it's on the left. Why the mic icon, I'm going to set it to be on the right because it's on the right. Maybe I can decide to still set this guy to the left and right so that it can equally adjust. That's not good. I think what I can do is I can set it to be scale. Yeah, let's try scale. No. And I don't want to reduce the size manually. Okay, let's just leave it to be center. Okay, this is just personal preference. It's not really, it's just personally me. I don't want to leave it that way. I want the Google to be smaller though. So yes, so I have been able to. So you can see now what we achieved now is, as you can see on my screen, if I am trying to drag from here, you can see the search bar, the size of the search bar is decreasing as well. If you're increasing it, it's increasing as well. It's decreasing and it's increasing. It's increasing and it's decreasing. So one more thing, remember, I think in yesterday's class, somebody defined responsiveness as being able to just make the important information show, the important element show. So currently now, this right, this currently now is 123, right? On my mobile, it might not be 3, right? So if it's not going to be 3, what I can do is I can just off 1, so it's now 2, right? So you can do that, or another thing you can do, which of course I will not advise you do it now because it's going to come up with a lot of complications, because Figma have not yet developed utterly how to be working that way, is I can set this to wrap, right? So if I'm going down, it can be wrapping. But see the problem, it doesn't work in respect to this. And wrap does not work when there's an outer layer. Remember that we have an outer frame here. Wrap does not respect that outer frame. So if you want wrap to work, you have to remove this outer frame. But we need that outer frame to be there because we are building in blocks. So Figma has not really updated, their app to that particular level. There's still some limitations. So what we are just going to do is we are going to just off 1 and let's just work with only 1, right? So Yeah, this works well. So let me try and test again to know if it's actually, yeah, so you can see everything aligns properly at this point. Yeah, so maybe I can equally make, no, let's leave the languages. It's okay. So Control Z, yeah. So you can see we've been able to build this to be responsive. So as you're shrinking it, you can see that the text button, the search box is equally increasing. And what we just did was we just adjusted the constraints to the left and right, right? So if you're increasing it, the search box is creating this illusion that is stretching out, right? So ladies and gentlemen, when you've done this, right, you've actually built, a responsive interface, right? So you might ask yourself the question, okay, now that I have done this now, how do the developers actually work with this particular file? Now, if you've built this responsive, let me show you something. There's what we call developer mode in Figma, right? So a developer now who has a view access to this particular file can now come and inspect this your design. Now to inspect it, there is this option called dev mode here. Shift D is the shortcut. So when I switch to dev mode, you can see my interface has changed. So now you see how Figma is, because of the way I built it, you can see that this is building in block plus the body. So the developer can actually inspect and see every single thing that I've built, the way I've built it. And of course, the Figma is giving them parameters and of course suggesting lines of codes that they can actually copy into their work. So they are going to use the exact same parameters that I'm doing. So that is how they can actually get the exact design. So they don't need to come and start cracking their brain trying to figure out which position is this or what is this. So far they hover on it, Figma gives them the code. So they can generate codes for different, so they can generate code for CCS and CSS, they can generate codes for iOS, either Swift UI or all of those. So Figma just gives you the code. So all they just do here is copy. So you make their life very easy. So that's how it actually works. And that's why it's important that you use this standard. So you can see the moment they clicked on this, Figma automatically generated the code that they are going to just use for this. So you just need to put in whether you're writing for web or you're writing for mobile, right? So if you've done all this, if you've set all these things, you make the life of the developer just very easy. So that's why it's very important that you do this, or when you're trying to design your interfaces, you design, with this in mind. But let's take it a little. Okay, before we move further, away. Am I sharing the wrong screen? Mogbe. God, I beg. Oh, thanks for calling my attention to it. I shared the wrong screen. God, I beg. Okay, let's go back. I was blabbing on this one. So now, what I was just trying to say, okay, now that you've have I been doing this? Sorry, let me know where. Hey God. Okay, let me just go. Let me just go again. I'm sharing the wrong screen. All right, let's go again. So now, God, I beg. Okay, did we get? I even lost track of where I started switching. Hey, that means it's even when I was in this mobile. Okay, and please, who's going to assist me? Let me unmute somebody. So you tell me where we stopped. Okay, Miracle, let me hear from you. Miracle, can you tell me where I stopped?
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, Isaac, go ahead. Where did I stop? Where my screen?
Stop at the mobile interface. That is when you immediately you just change the screen. We did not see what you was doing from there. Yours is the beginning. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate again. So let's do the mobile screen again so you guys see what I actually did. So now this is the tablet, right? We all understood how I did the tablet. So I did Control G. Now I was trying to say that when I shrink, you can see this Control Z, this search bar is not shrinking. And of course, you're not noticing it because we are now working with a smaller screen this time around. Do you understand? We are working with a smaller screen, so you're noticing it. All those times we are working with big screens, you didn't notice it. So now we need to, at this point, adjust this particular stuff. So what I did was, first off, I personally, this is personal opinion, you can leave it. I just didn't like the fact that the logo is now big here because we're working with a smaller script, so I just reduced it a little. Now what I did was on this navigation bar, I just the constraints we originally set it to center because it worked well in desktop and of course bigger screens. It should always be in center, but now it's in mobile. What we want it as it's switching from tablet to mobile. Let it look as if the search bar is shrinking with it or it's increasing with it. So it's just an illusion that we want to create. So in order for us to do that, we now need to change the constraints from center to left and right. Right? Now, if I do that and I come back here and I drag, you can see that it's not responding yet. So we need to set the outer frame to left and right as well. So if I do that and I drag now, it's going to respond. So you can see it's responding. So the search bar is now increasing. Control Z. So, but you notice that while we are dragging, the mic disappeared. And the reason why it disappeared is because we've not set the constraints. So I'm going to come here, set the constraints for the icon, the search icon, to be on the left. Now set the constraints of the mic to be on the right. Now, these guys, you will agree with me that someone said yesterday that responsiveness is trying to ensure that the important items of designs are still retained across different screen sizes, right? So we have three items, three tags here. We have three tags. So we have three tags here. So it's possible that in my mobile version that I don't want the three tags to be showing. So what I can do is I can just off one, right? And then just leave only two on. And then ensure that everything is properly aligned. And then I can set it left and right. You can see everything is working smoothly now.
Who is it?
So you can see everything is working smoothly. Did someone say something? So you can see everything is working. So both the search bar. So as I'm increasing the search bar, it's increasing. If you bring it down, it readjusts. So what we just did was we just adjust the constraints. So I was now saying, like, when you finish building for different screens, just like this, when you finish building for different screens just like this, how do developers work with what you've done, right? Now, there's what we call dev mode in Figma. There's what we call dev mode in Figma. So to switch to dev mode in Figma, you can press Shift D on your keyboard, or you can just see this icon that it's beside your share button. Just toggle it on, and you can see it has switched to dev mode. So developers understand this interface more because whenever they hover, you can see that as I'm hovering now, Figma is putting every single thing you have done in blocks. Why? Because we use the right method, and this is basically what developers understand because this is how their framework works. So everything they are doing is they call it div. So they do everything in div, right? Div 1, div 2, div 3, blah 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 blah, and all of those. So this makes more sense to them. And of course, for anything they click, there's a code they can copy for it. So for instance, now let's just say you click on this, you can see the code for it. So they can just copy this and paste it on their own interface, and it makes life very easy for them. And of course, it's showing them the padding values. So they don't need to come and start assuming. So you can see that it's showing them the padding radius and all those kind of stuff. So they don't need to be assuming that, okay, this thing now should be around 50 pixels separate and all of those. So that is how developers actually reach your designs using the dev mode. And of course, they can generate different codes for Android, and all of those. They can just come for any item they click, there's code they can copy and you know. So that's why it's very, very good, and it's very, very advisable that when you're trying to do your design, since you're always going to be working with developers, right? Always try to follow some of these standards so that you know you can be of much value to them. Does that make sense, guys? Now, do we understand? Isaac, I think you can still give me feedback.
Yes, yes, sir. We understood.
All right. All right, all right, all right. So now let's proceed. Let's just take it a little bit further. So I'm going to exit dev mode. Now let's take it a little bit further. Now, although Figma does not yet have a native um, interface for responsiveness on their web app and of course on their desktop app, but we now have what we call plugins. Plugins are like add-ons or like extras that help you to execute some stuffs faster, right? So we have what we call plugins that can actually help you to see, we have these things like in different speeds. Do you understand? So we have a plugin that can combine these three screens, and then you can now see the full responsiveness of this particular page, if of course you've done it well, right? Although most times, personally, I'm of the personal opinion that it's of no use, because that one now, developers can't read it. What developers can actually read is this particular three screens that we have here. Do you understand? But let's just say you're trying to make a proposal to a client that you've worked for. Do you understand that, okay, this particular page is responsive and this is how it's going to be behaving? You want to show them how it's actually going to behave. So that is where that plugin comes in. So you can, after doing these things, because it might not be very easy to use these particular screens to make presentations to stakeholders or clients that you work for and stuff like that. But you can use that particular plugin to create those responsive pages, and then you can now show it to them. They'll be like, oh wow, nice, 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 nice. So I'm just going to show you guys that plugin. I'm not putting a lot of emphasis on it, right? We barely use it in the real world, but just for physics sake, you can just know it for knowing sake, and then you can flex it, of course. So we have different plugins. We can use. We have breakpoints. I'm just going to have breakpoints. We have breakpoints. We have point break. But the one I'm looking for is responsively. Now, how responsively works is you're going to tell it the screen size. So to use responsively, all you just have to do is make a duplicate. I'm going to make a duplicate because it's going to use all this one. So I don't want to lose the entire thing. So I'll come here. Let me just search. I usually use breakpoints to find it. Because sometimes I can forget the word responsively. So this is it. So how it works is that you need to name your files with numbers. So I'm going to numbers is just like the breakpoints, right? Let me run it so you guys see it yourself. So you need to name them how you want them to appear. So naming them is just basically calling the breakpoint. So this is from 0 to 768. So I'm just going to probably name this 0. So this is from 768 to whatever, so 1 4. So I'm going to name this 768. Why this is desktop. So basically I'm just naming based on their width. The only thing is that I call this one 0 so that it will know that, okay, this is the mobile. So it's moving from 0. So you can actually stretch it from 0 in terms of width to, the next number, which is 768, before it's going to adjust, and then to the next number before it's going to adjust. Now, if you've done that, what you can now do is you select every single thing. You must select it to use responsively. So if you select every single thing, where's my responsive? So I'm just going to come to the plugin section, and then I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to run it. So the moment you run it, you can see it generates a page, a one-page layout for you. that is existing as a component. So we have the main component and we have the instance, right? So now, if I come to this instance now, I can actually see how responsive. So you see, the moment I am dragging, you see what's happening here in one page. So you can actually use it to show people that, oh wow, this page is actually responsive. I don't know if that makes sense, anyone. So that's just basically how it works. So you can see as I'm dragging, it's adjusting. You can see the footer as you're dragging, it's adjusting there. You get, then if you are increasing in mobile, you can see the search bar, is decreasing as well. It's increasing, then it switches, and all of those. Just the same interaction you get when you're trying to use the real world platform. So you can see, because I reduce the fonts, because I reduce the logo size, the moment I switch to mobile, you can see it reduces the size as well. So that's just basically how it works. Any questions, please?
Yes.
Okay. We have something else to do. I mean, this is the smallest you get. So I'm going to just show us something else. Then I'm going to take questions. But this is what, okay.
Hello, sir.
Supposed
We can hear you. We cannot hear you, sir.
to
We cannot hear you. We can't hear you.
Okay,
We cannot hear you, sir.
let me just take two
Hey, your voice is cracking, sir. We can't.
questions before.
Oh my God.
Move us to the next category. Just
Hello.
have like barely 30 minutes to round off the class. But we're supposed to, right? So we're going to use like 20
Charlie,
minutes.
can't
So
hear
plugins
you. Your
help us
voice
to test
is
run your work. And plugins helps you to do your work faster. Plugin, right? So we can use Pixel, some of those. Then use icon. They have icon database, so you use them in your design. So it just
Sir,
helps you to do
we are no
some
longer
people
with
raising their
you.
hands. Let's ask your question, please.
Hello.
If you can raise your hand.
Hello.
Okay, if ask your question.
Hello. Please, we can hear you. Network did not allow us.
Just ask you to
I put the way you made the react. How did you do it? From there that we lost. We hasn't to understand what was.
Hi, Matters. Are you still here?
we can't hear him again. Network is really bad.
Okay, I think he left the call for a bit. Just hold on, let me search for him. I think he left the call. Okay, he's here. Matters. If you can hear me, we can't hear you. Just a few minutes, guys. Let me call him.
Can anyone hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, sir.
Okay. Yes, Matters, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I think at some point, network kicked me out. So I need to be able to share my screen. Can't do that now. Okay, please can you help me? I need to be able to share screen.
Okay, just a minute. Let me make you go. All right, I'm ready to host Matters.
Okay, so sorry about the breaking transmission. Can't exactly but yeah, it happened. So I was actually asking if there was any question. I wanted to take questions before I talk about the color styles, and then we can call it a day.
Yes.
Um,
Hello, sir.
yeah, Isaac.
Please, my question is that before the master and the instance, please, I did not really observe as in how you the part that you played it, please.
How you did what? Sorry.
As in how the master screen and the instance comes into, so which is you made it to still reduce
Okay,
to
I
mobile.
get.
I did
Yeah, I
not
get
really.
what you mean. I get what you mean. No problem. I'll clarify that. Any more questions? Like, let me take one more question so I can answer everything once. Uh, Nancy, let's hear from you. I just asked you to unmute. Nancy. Nancy, can you unmute? I think I asked you to unmute.
Can
Ask
you
your
hear me
question.
now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Please, I'm just going to like ask a question that I don't know that I like this sound very awful, but please, when you're making this design responsive, the tab and then also the mobile, is it
Yeah.
a more can you just like create another new frame and like duplicate or copy and paste on the other screen size? Because
Yeah, yes. You can, for instance, now create a new frame, right? And then you now come and copy this your thing and paste on that new frame. But the thing is, it's more work, right? Because when you do the copy, you start adjusting, try to balance things and all of those. So it's usually very easy. Do you understand? Because what you're making responsive, you're just designing the mobile view. You're from a desktop view, you come to the tablet, you come to the from tablet, you come to mobile. So it's the same content, you're just rearranging. So why not just duplicate the entire frame and then adjust? Do you understand? So it's just a matter of which one do
Okay.
you want. If you want stress, you can do your method. If you want the one that is easy, you can do this method.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Sorry, one other thing. So assuming the you just duplicate for us to know the screen size of a tablet and this thing, we have to like go through the frame sizes. I don't know.
No. Well,
For you
well,
to like
I
to
wouldn't
shrink
exactly
it.
I wouldn't exactly say you have to. You just, I think I was just showing you guys how to, how to fish. Do you understand? But you can just memorize these numbers. It's not hard, right? So if you come here now, let me just share this tab and then you inspect. How it works is desktop size is usually from 1,280 pixels and above. Do you understand? So when you
Okay.
come to desktop, we have different screen sizes that are bigger. Then when I'm talking about desktop, I'm equally talking about the bigger screens, like those monitor screens. So those ones are up to 2,000 pixels and above. Do you
Yeah.
understand me? But once
Okay.
we design for 1,440 pixels, 1,280 pixels, we design for those big ones. Do you understand? Because it's just like when we were designing for that desktop, what we just did was we set it to be in the center. So regardless of the screen, regardless of how big this thing is, this particular information will continuously be at the center of the page. Do you understand? So that was the logic. So the moment you've set it like that, any big screen, it will just maintain the center. The only thing is that those nav links now at the edge will remain at the top edge and at the top left. So that will give you the sense. It's just an illusion that, okay, this thing is responsive. You're just creating an illusion. That's what it is. Now, if you come for tablets, right? So tablet is
Yes.
now from 768 pixels down, like not 700, it's from 802 pixels down to, right? I think 565 pixels or so, or 465 pixels rather. So from 802 to, 465 is 565 rather, it's tablets. So there are different tablet sizes. There are tablets that are bigger than the others. Do you understand? So it's just working with range. So you just have an idea that, okay, a tablet is within this range. Then for mobile, you already know how a mobile phone, the size, but there are still mobile phones that have bigger screens than other mobile phones. So you just know the range. Do you understand? And then you can use that range to set up your frame. That's just it. So it's not like me bringing you here is just for you to know, okay, where the breakpoints are actually coming from, where the values are actually coming from. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much. And one other question, please don't
Ah,
be offended.
all right, go ahead,
Let
ask.
Okay. Please, when you're selecting an item on this thing, please the shortcuts, I really short code for it. Like if you want to select and do shift A, what is the I don't know how to put it.
Well,
Do you get my
basically, I get what you mean. I didn't really press any shortcut. All I just did was I clicked on one item, held down my control key, clicked on the other item to select the two. Or you can equally hold down your shift key, click on the other item. So the two items are selected now. Do you understand? Then you can press shift A. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you very much. I really appreciate.
All right, no issues. So, Isaac, you asked the question, yeah. So you were asking how we got to this point, right? So what we did was I was trying to explain that once you finish building out your responsive pages. So far, you built it correctly. Like you'll be able to make it responsive. And making it responsive means you saw the way we are trying to build these things and we are testing, we are stretching, to ensure that it's responsive. So far, you've done those measures. We can now use a plugin. Currently, Figma does not have a native, section for responsive screens on it now. For now, maybe we are looking forward to future updates, but for now, it doesn't have a native like section for it. So what we now do is we make use of plugins. Plugins are like externals that help you to do things faster or in a more easier
Hi,
way in Figma.
Martha, sorry for disturbing. Your screen is not shaking. Sorry.
Oh
It's
yeah,
just one
sorry.
place. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, thank you for calling my attention to it. So that's what plugins are for. So it's just for helping you to do things faster. So we have different plugins that can actually help you to do this. One of the ones I learned how to use first was the breakpoint. Although I think they've not been updating it recently, so it has not been performing well. But the one we used in today's class is responsively. Yeah. So you come to here, you switch to your plugin so you can see it here. But there is a way you use this plugin. Now, how you use it is number one, after you've designed, first off, I would like to make a duplicate so that I don't lose the main design that I did. Then secondly, you now need to name with numbers. If you don't name with numbers, it's not going to work. So you saw the way the naming here is named Google text. It's not going to work. You have to name the numbers, and the numbers is the breakpoint. So it's now going to know that okay, you want this thing from this point to this point, it will change to this particular orientation. So those numbers are the breakpoints. So currently now, this is my mobile, and I want it to shrink from 0 to probably I think what's the size of this 768. So I'm going to name this 768, right? And this one now is 1440. So this is 1440. So I've named it with numbers. And then after that, you can now select every single thing. Isaac, hope you're with me. So you select every single thing, then come and run your plugin. So the moment you run your plugin, it's just going to do the work automatically for you, and it converts it to, of course, it converts it to a component. So it gives you a main component. That's a main component that you remember. A main component, any edits you make here now is going to affect the child, as you can see. You know the ideology now, so that's just it. So it gives you this main component that you can use to make edit, and then it gives you this instance, right? So now if you come to the instance and of course drag, you can see it's responsive. So basically, and it being responsive is just everything we built out for. So what the plugin does is that all the responsiveness you built in 3 different screens, it brings it inside one screen for you so that you can actually see how it works. So remember that the reason why I showed you guys this is I said sometimes you might finish in a design, you want to show your client or you want to show the stakeholders that okay, this is how it's supposed to work when it's responsive, or sometimes you even want to show the developers how this thing is going to work. So after doing this, you can combine it like this, then you can probably do a video record of it or send it to the developer to try it out. So they actually see how it's supposed to respond when they are trying to build out the responsiveness. Does that make sense, Isaac? Okay. So yeah. So let's proceed. We don't have much time. We are supposed to like do some other stuff. So yeah, these the tasks we're supposed to do in class. So we're supposed to redesign this particular page in class, but we're not going to be able to do that because of time. So, but I'm going to explain because it's going to you guys are going to use it to carry out your weekly tasks. Now, basically, this is an existing website, right? I probably should open the website for you guys. Money Africa. So you can see Money Africa is an existing website. Yeah, very nice, very simple, blah 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 blah. Cool and smooth. So now let's come back to our file. Now, what actually happened here? It's okay. What I did was I brought in the file here, and then we had this a redesign, right? So this is like designing every single thing on the Money Africa website from scratch. But I wanted you guys to understand how you design in Figma. So I was supposed to show you guys using this particular template. But it's still in line with how we designed the Google landing page, right? So the same way we did Google, you understand? That's the same way. But we're just supposed to do this from scratch so you guys see. But I'm just going to explain it so you understand because we don't have time again. So basically, this is the logo, right? The logo is already existing. Now, this is the nav links, and this is, of course, this other nav link. Now, see what's happening here. It's in a block form, and this block form, we call it navigation bar, right? And you can see everything is properly named, except for this. Maybe I can call this nav link, right? Now you can see this is equally another block, right? This block houses the image, And then you can see this is another block, and I named it text block. And of course, this white area is a frame, and then this other guy is a frame. And this frame now, we called it the hero section. So if I off this frame, of course, everything in that particular area offs. So if I wanted to build this particular page, right, it's very easy for me to probably bring my font, my text to, and then write maybe grow your business, right? And I can scale to 32 or 42. Always work with even numbers. So let's try 42. 42, then make it bold. Yeah. So, and then maybe all these texts that are here, I don't have time to type them again. So let me just copy from here. Yeah, so all these texts are here now. So what I can do is probably I can group this and then select sheet A, add auto layout to it so it's properly aligned, right? So I have this text here. Then, this is an image, so I can just use a block to represent it, right? And then we have a corner radius of probably 50, and then I'm going to add a fill of black so it's visible. Yeah, so the corner radius is just something like that. So let's say we have something like this going on, right? So what I'm going to do is, remember I have auto layout added to this, so I can adjust the spacing and all. So I'm going to select this, and I'm going to hit Shift A, right? And I can align it to the center. And of course, I can now adjust the spacing between this and this, but I am working with the grid system. Remember I said for anything you want to do, we've already done grid system here. If you want to do a design, always start with a grid, so you don't design nonsense. Now, I already have a grid system, so your grid system is supposed to tell you how to align this. So now I'm going to push this to this particular point to make sure that it laps, right? It's lapping. Now I can use my spacing to now ensure this other guy laps on this other end. Now that is how I know how to space. So when you are viewing this website, you can see every single thing is in line. So let's come back to the real website. Now, if you scroll down, you can see every single thing it's in line. So that is actually how you get these forms, right? So let's come back to Figma. Share this file. Yeah, share this file. So that's how, and of course, this is already existing as a block. If I come to the dev mode, you can see I can inspect it as a block. So if you come to my dev mode, you can see you can inspect all these, as blocks and all of those. And that is how you design in Figma. So even if I come down, so if you want to design, continue going down, let me switch back to this. I can, of course, scroll down. And of course, this is now simple because I've already done this. So this is simple. All I just have to do is duplicate this guy. Now, this image is on the other end. So all I just need to do is come inside this guy and then just move this guy on top, and it switches, right? So I don't need to design everything again from scratch, right? That is how fast it is when you're designing something that it's responsive. Sorry, when you're designing with responsive in mind, from the onset. So for this other guy, I can just make a duplicate, and then I can just move this guy to this other area and it adjusts, right? Now, there's something else I want to show you guys. Spacing matters. So now let's just say I finished doing this. The spacing between your items are supposed to have a kind of structure that you are following, right? So I'm going to select this, and this, and I'm going to equally add Shift A, right? And I can, by so, control the spacing between these items, right? So I can say that, okay, the spacing here is going to be probably 150, right? So the developer who is equally going to be implementing this can equally know that, okay, the spacing from up and to this is equally 150. So if you come to our dev mode to inspect, you can see it's telling the developer that the spacing here is 150. And that's how you build, that's how you do your design so that developers can actually work with it. Does that make sense, guys? I can't continue with the design now, but hope you guys understand. So that when you're going to be designing your files, when you're going to be designing, doing your task, you understand the right flow. The task is not, the idea behind the task is not for you to do the design. It's not for you to just do design and show. The idea is for you when your design is being inspected, do you understand? Does it follow the right methods of doing this? Do you understand? So that's the general idea behind it. Does that make sense? Yes, it should make sense. So let me quickly show you guys how to build out your color styles in Figma, and then we can call it a day. So, we talked about design systems, and we said in design systems we have what we call foundations. So foundations are like your color styles, your grid systems, those, in short, everything you can do in this properties panel, your typography, those are your foundations. Then we now have what we call components. So components are like your buttons, and then I forgot to show you guys something. So all these nav links are existing as components, as you can see. So all I just did was I created the main components here. Maybe add a frame here. I can't really show you guys these things because of time. Well, I think we've talked about components, so you should have an idea. So just created the main thing here, right? And then just made a duplicate. So these are all variants of the main mother component, which is this guy. So here now I can even on the icon of it, on the icon of it. So these are like best practices of doing stuff or building out your design in a scalable way. So you all should research about organic design systems, if I'm correct. Yes, organic design systems. So it states that when you're trying to build out a design system, you start from atoms. Atoms, you combine atoms to molecules. From molecules, you get compounds. From compounds, you get templates, and so on and so forth. So do that as a personal research. It's going to help you, when you're trying to structure out your designs. So in building out your foundations, what we have in foundations include typography, color styles, shadows, what else? Your stroke can be there. Yeah, these are basically what we have. So let's talk about the important ones, which is, let's talk about color styles first. Now, let's say, Shiji, let's say I want to do a design, right? I want to do a design. And then that design that I want to do, I already know that, okay, I'm going to work with three colors. One is brown. So I'm going to choose brown here, right? Let's bring it up light. Then second color is black. So I'm going to choose black here. And then the third color should be maybe something green. Nah. Well, just I'm not really choosing colors. And I know they've already taught us, color psychology, color theory, so you know how to choose colors for your work. But I just want to teach you how to save your color styles. Now, when you save your color styles, different designers or different people who are working with you on your design file can actually collaboratively work with you on that particular file without having to guess which color we are using or which color we are not using. I'm going to show you guys an example here. So this is a particular project that it's ongoing here. Now, when you click outside, my clicking is not clicking. No. Okay, so when you click, you can see that we have a list of colors. We have up to 13 colors that have been documented on this file. So, and you can see how these colors are named. So product, normal, product, ink, product. So now this just tells you what we are doing here. So product dark means that, of course, this is the product color. And you can see that that's the color that it's being used across this particular platform. So we have the dark and the normal. So we can use the dark as hover states and all of those. Then we have different shades of white. And the reason for that is because the design itself was not using pure white. So we had to stipulate the shade of white that we are using. And you can see how we made use of it here and all of those. So if you click on this particular color, you will definitely see that it is linked. As you can see, it is linked to what we have in our color system. The same thing with the buttons and all of those. So if we have multiple designers who are working on this particular file, right? They don't need to assume the colors that they are using because we've already stated the colors and we've saved it on that Figma file. Now, the question is, how do you save on Figma file? So that is what we want to look at. So let's just say these are the brand colors that we are working with. Now, the brown is the primary color, the black is the secondary color, while the blue is the tertiary color. So to save this thing, all I just have to do is click on this particular color, come to your field. You see these 4 dotted icons, right? Click on it, and you're going to see the plus sign, right? You're seeing all these other colors because I'm working with different design systems. So you're just pulling colors from those design systems that are already there. But yours might not show you anything, sure. But what you're interested in is this plus sign, which is sorry, is that the plus sign? This, not this, is this guy. Yeah. Then you click on this plus sign, right? So if you click on this plus sign, you're going to see style. Now it's going to ask you for a name. So we want this to be primary color. Primary color, it's okay. This is like the basic color we're going to be using in this design. In that design I showed you guys, the primary color there was green because that's what is more dominant in the design. Remember the 60-30-10 rule, right? All these things should be making sense. So we have the primary color here. So I can call this primary color. Then of course you can put a description, maybe use only for main objects, just something that can give whoever you're going to be working with an insight of how to use these colors. The truth is, most times I don't usually put descriptions, but you can use descriptions and then you can create style. Now, the moment you create style, see what happens. Figma automatically documented it here, as you can see. So this particular thing is already saved in your file. So if I come here now, I can decide to click on this particular guy, and then I'll come to my field. Once I click on this, or you can see this color and I can click on it, it changes automatically. Does that make sense? So I don't need to be assuming or trying to figure out which color in the color wheel that is this shade of. Everything is saved. So I can click on this black, do the same thing, plus call it secondary color, save. It has already saved. I can do the same thing, plus style, and probably call this accent color. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how simple it is to create your color styles in Figma. Now we have plugins that allows you to generate these color styles, because you can see I was doing it manually. So one of the plugins I can recommend is called what's the name of the plugin? Stylist. So Stylist is a plugin that allows you to generate text and color styles, right? So if I click on Stylist now, let's see how it loads. So let's try color, because we've not talked about. So if I click on this, you can see one of the advantages of this is that it generates shades for you as well. So let's just say I want to create, let me just probably use another shade of brown so we can see this. Let me use, let's make this purple. Now all I just need to do is I just need to come here, copy the color code, and then come to this point and paste the color code. So you can see that what it did was it's going to generate the different shades of this particular color, right? Although why I don't usually like using this stylist is because it's sometimes you lose the original color, because it's going to try to generate different shades of it. So what I normally do is the original color, I'll save it manually, then use this one to generate shades of that original color. Then I can call this, maybe you can call it any name. Maybe I can call it primary, primary, so that when it saves, it does. But it generates shades for you faster. And of course, you can reduce the number of shades and all those stuff, and you can increase the intensity, reduce the number of swatches from 10 to 5. I don't really need 10. And then I can just create a color palette. So the moment you create a color palette, it does this automatically for you. So under primary, you can see I have different shades of that primary color. Does that make sense? So it helps you to do this thing faster. Now the same thing goes for text. Let's just say I already know that, okay, the kind of text I'm going to be using is going to be moving in the progression of 8, 16, 20, 24, blah, 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 blah. Just like that. Remember, you work with even numbers. It's advisable you work with even numbers. So I can just come and write maybe your text here. Now let's say let's say your text here, the heading, it's going to be 64, as you can see. So I can come here, come to these four dotted icons here, click on the plus sign, and maybe I can call this heading 1, right? And I can say use for all headings, right? And then I can create style. And you can see it as documented. So if I come here now, I can just click on this text, come to my text panel and choose heading 1, and it's, changes it to heading 1, right? You're not noticing it because it's like the same size. If I choose business now and change it to heading 1, it will look very big, as you can see, right? Because it's a heading. So that is how you do it. So you can equally go back to that our plugin, and you can use it to generate your text styles very fast. So all you just have to do is sometimes you just need to see how it's generating it. It generates, this is 10, 13, 16, 20, 25. If you are totally okay with it, you can generate, or you can adjust from here to see different variations or different progressions of this. If you're okay, you can equally change your font size and fonts. If you don't want to use Roboto, you can use Enter. You can search for fonts, activate whether you want light, medium. So the plugin makes it faster, unlike trying to do it manually, right? So, but the more you try it, the more you understand when to use it and when not to use it. Trust me, you would understand when to use it and when not to use it, and all of those. So once I click on create style, it creates every single thing, right? So if I come here, you can see that it has created different text styles. So ladies and gentlemen, before you start breathing out your design, it's usually very advisable that you create your text styles and your color styles so that you can maintain some level of consistency across your design. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Great. I saw a question. Can we use color level generator? Yeah, it's, you can see, I think color level generator is still a plugin, so you can still use it. I just recommended the one I used more. So if you check out the community and you find better plugins or the ones you like to use more, it's totally fine. You can use it. The main thing is you achieve the scope. So let's just take maybe 2 or 3 questions in the next 1 minute, then we can call it a day because our time is up. Any questions? So you can use the comment section to make it faster. Then I'm going to try to unmute people who are raising their hands. Chidozie, let's hear from you. You can ask your question.
Yeah, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
I think regards to your screen changes. I saw how you switched from desktop to tablet, then normal phone screen. So I just wanted to ask, like, the changes apply to the screen. Like, does it mean that if you are designing an app for like a web page, and I'm sorry, if you're designing a web page and also an app for it, does it mean that you have to apply the same measures throughout the whole thing? Like you have to copy, adjust for all the different pages for the tablet and the web page?
Okay, well, a good question. There are some designs I understand, like when you're working on a project and you're trying to build. Now there's a project I did one time, and people I did that project demanded that the entire page has to be design responsive. So what it implied me to do was, when I finish doing the desktop, or as I'm doing the desktop, right? After doing a particular page, I'll build the responsive immediately. And when you use auto layouts to build out your stuff, building the mobile version and the tablet version is not very hard, as you saw in what we did. So all you just have to do is, once you duplicate, resize it, and then readjust some particular items, and you're good to go. And of course, as you're resizing, auto layouts will help you to be adjusting something. So it's not really going to be much of a work as you think it's going to be. All you just have to do is just practice it, and you're going to discover more things as you practice.
Okay, no problem. So that's, if you are saying it's going to be easy, or you're saying it's going to be hard, like you say it's not that hard.
It's not that hard, because I'm just using that term because probably you've not practiced it, so you're thinking that it's hard. But when you start doing it, you can actually see that it's not hard, right? Because it's going to be very fast for you. Get I from the way you structured your statement, I'm thinking you're thinking that it's a hard job, right, to do the resizing. But there are some projects you're going to do, and they will demand that all the pages has to be responsive, and you have to do them, right? Because developers have to work, work on it. Especially when you're working with developers who cannot build a page out except they see a UI design. You just have to do all those things so that their own job gets easier as well. Do you understand? But there are some projects
Yeah,
you
that's
don't really need to build out the responsive pages just for every page, because developers can actually, move around them, so they won't bug you with that. You get. So it's just a matter of what you're doing and how you're doing it. All right, guys. So
thank you very much.
our time is, yeah, you can reach out on Discord, please. If you have any confusions or any questions, feel free to reach out on Discord. I'll be able to answer your question. So our time is up, and we're going to be calling it a day. So if you have, how do you switch images between, to switch images when you have the auto layout set already? Just for instance, now this is inside auto layout. So if I want to change this black kite here, I'll just drag it over. Drag it over and it moves. Do you understand? Because you already have auto layout structured. And of course, I can change the direction. And because it's responsive, as I'm changing it, it's adjusting, as you can see. Do you understand? So that's just the advantage of working with auto layout. So we're going to end here for today's class because I just borrowed 5 minutes. So any other discussion will continue in Discord, right? And then just another thing is always try as much as possible to do your personal research, right? So the task will be sent across to you guys on Discord as well, right? Yeah, it's going to be sent across to you guys on Discord probably this night or tomorrow morning. Yeah, so you can start working on it. So having said all of this, guys, it's going to be a good night. See you guys next time. Take care.
All right. Thank you very much, Mantas. So if you have more questions, please just ask on Discord and tag Mantas. Your task is going to come later tonight or tomorrow. Okay, guys. Good night, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your evening.